Welcome everyone to MMA Weekly with Austin and Chef Dan. I am Austin, and unfortunately, Chef Dan couldn't make it tonight. He's lost his voice and having voice problems, so it's gonna be a solo show. Wish Dan a speedy recovery, and hopefully he can recover and he can get his voice back. But it's gonna be just me tonight. Like I said, hopefully Dan can make a recovery with his voice. But yeah, before we begin, I just want to say thank you guys for watching us and supporting us on YouTube or Grumble or and the audio podcasting platforms. Appreciate the love and support you guys give us. And well, let's get right into it. What happened? The UFC returned finally back. UFC came back this past Saturday, live at the Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. And the main event was a different main event. Going into the week, it was supposed to be Nasruddin Imavov versus Calvin Gastelum, but obviously most of you were seeing this probably aware. Calvin Gastelum got injured 3-4 days before the fight, unfortunately due to a sparring accident, and he had to pause the fight. And Sean Strickland stepped in literally on 3 or 4 days' notice and took the fight. And it was a catch weight at 205 because Strickland couldn't make the weight, obviously taking that short of a notice. And Sean Strickland went out there and won. He won the decision fight over Nasruddin Imavov, which is shocking to say the least, because I don't think any of us expected that. A guy who's coming off on super short notice. You want to talk short notice? This is it. I mean, Sean Strickland, I think, is the first UFC fighter to main event back-to-back events in UFC history, including fight nights, not the old UFC pay-per-view only days, but since fight nights have been incorporated in UFC. Because remember, the last UFC show was the end of the 2022 show in December. It was him and Jared Cannonier. And now he's the main event of this fight card. And Sean Strickland makes history doing that and gets a impressive victory over Nasruddin Imavov, who was on the road going to this fight. And this fight, yeah, Strickland gets his pressure and his awkward style kind of gave Imavov problems. Imavov really had a hard time really adjusting to Strickland's style. And it seems like maybe the switch of opponents did more damage to Imavov than we thought. I honestly thought when this fight got announced that Imavov was going to have an easy victory over Sean Strickland just because of the fact that Strickland was coming in on super short notice. But I was wrong. And one thing I was surprised by is the fact that no wrestling from Imavov. He used it against Joaquin Buckley. I remember him and Joaquin Buckley in that fight. He used wrestling, took down Joaquin, but some odd reason he didn't use it against Strickland. It's like, you're from Dagestan. I know you lived in France for a long time, and you train in France and etc. But you're from Dagestan. You do have a wrestling background. You've used it in your fights. Like, why didn't you use it against Strickland, especially against Strickland, who wasn't training that much, who wasn't preparing for wrestling and stuff in general? And his stand up basically looked basic compared to Strickland. Imavov at times, especially considering Imavov threw leg kicks early on in that fight, but then he stopped for some reason, never went back to it. I don't know why. And Sean Strickland was able to go out there and win this fight in a very impressive fashion, considering the circumstances and everything. I mean, this was pretty shocking. And by the way, Strickland and Imavov Strickland weighed 204, Imavov was 194, but Imavov didn't look that much bigger. I mean, Strickland didn't look that much bigger than Imavov. They almost looked like the same weight. You can't even say weight difference may play a factor because it didn't look like it at all. And I do wonder how this fight would have turned out if these guys had a full training camp. Part of me does think Strickland would have won anyway, but still, I think you never know how the fight could have looked if both guys had full training camp. But Sean Strickland goes out there and gets a very impressive victory after coming up a controversial decision loss against Jared Cannonier a month ago. Yeah, about a month ago. It was December 17th. That fight happened. It's January 17th as I'm doing this video. So, what an impressive victory for Strickland and Imavov. I mean, hopefully he can work on his striking more, not being as basic, and also try to incorporate more of his wrestling. You are from Dagestan. You have used wrestling success. I don't know why you didn't do it here. I mean, but good victory for Strickland. We'll see what's next for Strickland, and we'll go from there to the next fight on the card, which is the co-main event between Dan Ige and Damian Jackson. Dan Ige knocks out Damian Jackson in the second round. I mean, that image says it all. I mean, I mean, he had a nasty cut. Damon Jackson, like his hair, it was a hairline fracture too. Like it was pouring from like I think this side of his hairline, just pouring down the blood and everything. And at one point, Damon Jackson was a favorite. And I was like, I didn't understand that. I'm like, Danny Ige is getting really disrespected by the odds makers and by Vegas. I know the odds somewhat moved a lot closer, and maybe Ige might have been a somewhat small favorite by the time the fight came. I'm not sure, but I remember the week of the fight, Damon Jackson was a favorite, which I didn't understand why. A lot of people were thinking Damon Jackson was going to beat Dan Ige. I don't know why people were disrespecting Dan Ige like that. Dan Ige has been a consistent contender in this featherweight division for the last 4 or 5 years, and he looked like the better fighter. I mean, it seemed like Damon Jackson had nothing for him to stand up. I mean, he landed a couple punches, but every time Dan Ige landed a punch on Damon Jackson, it seemed like Damon Jackson just. It seemed like it just affected Damon Jackson a lot more than Jackson's punches on Ige. He would curl up. He would be pushed back a lot, and it's like the punches always had a fit. The punches seemed to inflict so much damage on Jackson. Every time Dan Ige landed one, to the point where he set up that impressive knockout, which he got performance bonus with, which thankfully he deserved it because that was a pretty damn nice knockout. I mean, that was impressive to see. And see Dan Ige get a victory again, bounce back after losing his last fight to. I forget. I only was Giga. I forget who his last fight was. My apologies, but it was nice seeing Dan Ige get another victory get a victory, and I'm pretty sure the next fight for Dan Ige is going to be a ranked opponent in the featherweight division. And yeah, Damon Jackson probably needs to work on striking, etc., because his striking did not look that good against Dan Ige. I mean, Dan Ige was a clear better striker in that fight. Just watching it. As we go from that fight to the next fight in the card, which was Soriano against Kopylov, as Kopylov wins via second round knockout. Soriano at one of the problems with this fight, Soriano looked like he was just headhunting a lot in this fight. It seemed like he just headhunted and kept missing, over swinging. Even when he shot a takedown and missed too. Didn't get a takedown rather. Excuse me. And Kopylov was able to take him down at one point. I think towards the end of round 1, if I'm not mistaken. And it just seemed like from there, Kopylov at the round 2, Kopylov just dominated, just kept beating up Soriano to the point he was able to get that finish. And this is a guy in Kopylov who, I know he lost his debut fight back in 2019. I know he didn't get off the best start, if I remember, in his UFC run, but since then he's pulled off some impressive victories and he's shown improvement in his skill set with his last several fights. And he's on a roll. He's a guy to watch out for in this middleweight division. But yeah, great fight for Kopylov, great victory for him, Roman Kopylov, in TKO victory in the second round. Good performance, and it was interesting to see what we give him next. I mean, probably won't be someone in the top 15, but someone near the top 15. Like if he can beat that person, then he probably get like a top 15 opponent afterwards. But Kopylov, watch out for Roman Kopylov. As we go in from that fight to the next fight in the card, which is a women's bantamweight division between Caitlin Vieira and Raquel Pennington. Raquel Pennington wins via sorry about that. Excuse my voice. She wins via split decision, 29-28 on the judges' scorecards. And this fight, Raquel Pennington lost the first round because she did get hit with like an elbow, I believe, from Caitlin Vieira that did visible damage to her, and that to me swayed the round to Caitlin Vieira because of the visible damage on Raquel Pennington's face. But round 2, she won round 2 and 3. And that's to me Raquel Pennington, because I think she did a lot more than Caitlin Vieira. Even though Caitlin Vieira did land some elbows in the end of round 2, but it wasn't enough to steal the round. In round 3, Vieira was dominating the wrestling or dominating the grappling part of it, but she wasn't doing any damage. Raquel was clearly doing way more damage. The stat lines, I believe Raquel outlanded Caitlin Vieira like 80-something to 67, something like, I think it was 81-67 in favor of Raquel Pennington. I know it was somewhere in the 80s for Raquel, and I know Caitlin Vieira had 67 strikes landed, but none of the strikes were like, none of them were like hurting her, except for that one in that first round. And to me, Caitlin Vieira Jimmy lost because she didn't do enough damage. This was kind of like the reversal of her and Holly Holm. It seemed like where when Kelly Vera fought Holly Holm, she won because in the judges' scorecards because was doing more damage. It was than Holly Holm. We know Holly Holm was winning the grappling exchanges, and it seemed like it was somewhat like that here in this fight where she was doing better in the grappling exchanges, especially later in the fight, but Raquel Pennington was outlanding her and doing more damage, and she got the victory. And it's kind of crazy to think Raquel Pennington is not far off from a title fight, considering she fought Amanda Nunes almost 5 years ago for the title, where she got beat up by Amanda. If I remember, she didn't want to go out there for the 5th round, but coaches told her to, basically, and that caused some controversy at the time that I remember. And she's not that far off. She might all she needs is one more victory and she gets a title fight. It's kind of weird. Think about that. Raquel Pennington's is still in the mix for a championship. I mean, I'm not saying she beats Amanda in the second go around because I don't see it, but hey, it's still impressive to think that she's still in the top of the division all these years later since fighting for the title back in 2018. And for Kelly Vieira, it's just tough loss. I mean, it seems like Kelly Vieira, every time she gets close to getting a title fight or close to winning a big fight, well, particularly fighting for the title more so, every time she gets close, it seems like she tends to lose. Something happens where she drops a ball. I don't know if that's just me, but I feel like that's been like that with Kelly Vieira in her career. I mean, if I'm wrong, let me know. If I'm right, let me know, because that's what I feel when I think of Kelly Vieira's career. She gets close to title fights and then she loses. I think she lost to Irene Aldana, or was it Julia Pena? It was one of those two girls she lost to, I believe, where she was close to getting a title fight. That, or it might have been Jermaine Durand. It might have been one of those. I forget. I remember she was close and lost to one of those 3 women and didn't get a title fight, where she was right there near a title fight. But we'll see what's next for Kelly Vieira, and might as well do Julian Pena and Raquel Pennington, since Amanda Nunes there's no clear cut contenders for Amanda Nunes. Might as well have those two fight for the title. I mean, not the title, but no more contendership. That's just me, but we'll move on and talk about the first fight in the card, which is in the bantamweight division between Umar Nurmagomedov and Hassani Barcelos, as Umar Nurmagomedov wins via knockout 4 minutes and 40 seconds into the first round. This was a great performance for Umar Nurmagomedov. I mean, they both were throwing a lot of strikes and both landed some strikes, but it seemed like Umar was the better striker, especially considering some of the body shots he landed against Barcelos, and it was a body shot that set the knockout punch. He landed a body shot, causing Barcelos to leave his neck open, and Umar caught him a left hook that just dropped him, and then just ground and pounded him and just finished him, as you see in the picture. Just landed he was out already by the time he landed. I mean, the ground pound, you can make an argument, wasn't necessary, but at the same time, you don't stop fighting until the referee tells you to stop fighting. And that's what Umar Nurmagomedov did. And I think that was his first knockout of his career. I think so. I mean, if that's the case, then that's impressive. What a way to get a knockout. He got performance bonus, rightfully so. And this was his first fight where he didn't have Habib, his cousin, in his corner, and he's still undefeated. I mean, it's impressive. Him, his brother Usman and Bellator, and Habib, all undefeated. It's crazy that family is starting to become the first family of MMA. They keep winning fights. Umar and Usman, they'll stay as the first family of MMA, in my opinion. The Nurmagomedovs. What a great performance, and for him and for Umar, he should definitely get a ranked opponent next. I don't know who, maybe a Pedro Munoz or somebody like that, but he needs a ranked opponent next. Maybe Ricky Simone or someone like that, because he's clearly one of the top bantamweights in the world. He's definitely someone to watch out for, who could be a title contender by the end of the year. Great performance by Umar Nurmagomedov. Gets a very good Hani Barcelos too, and that's my cover. And that wraps up my coverage of the main card, the Strickland Imavov card. I did not see the prelims at all, unfortunately, so I cannot talk about the prelims, unfortunately. But this was a good card, like I said. Yeah, a pretty solid main event, impressive knockout in the co-main event, a great knockout in the opening fight, and then even the third fight with Kopylov and Soriano, that was a pretty good finish there too. But Yeah, overall, good, a solid card. UFC's back. It's great to have the UFC back. They're taking a month off, and we transitioned from the Apex to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, because this Saturday, live on pay per view, the UFC is returning to Brazil for the first time in 3 years. This is the where's the here we go the poster here. The UFC first time in 3 years, the UFC returns to Brazil. And first time in in 4 years, almost 4 years, they bring a pay per view to Brazil. First time almost 4 years in 3.5 years, there's fans in the crowd in Brazil. Because you remember the last time they went to Brazil was after the world shut down because of the pandemic, and they were the only sporting event back in March of 20. It was March 16, 2020, and remember it was Kevin Lee and Charles Oliveira on that card at the main event, and there was no crowd. They were the only sporting events, and as the world shut down. That was crazy. But they're back in Brazil with a crowd this time, and I'm so happy the UFC's going to Brazil because the shows in Brazil are freaking awesome to watch, especially the crowd and the interactions with the crowd. I mean, the way the energy they always bring it every time. I know they're gonna bring it considering this is the first show in Brazil in years. And you got a pretty good main event in Glover Teixeira against Jamal Hill for the light heavyweight title. As you know, UFC 282, the last pay-per-view, it was a draw in the light heavyweight title fight between Jan Blachowicz and Magomed Ankalaev, and Dana White immediately made a new fight for the light heavyweight title. Dana White did not want to have a freaking unvacant champion, considering Yuri Prochazka was the champion, and he vacated the belt. So he made this fight for Brazil, so I would get light heavyweight championship. And for Glover Teixeira, this is his first fight in Brazil, and I believe about almost 5 years, not longer. I remember checking it like a couple weeks ago. Glover Teixeira hadn't fought in Brazil in a long time, and now he's returning back in Brazil against Jamal Hill to get his light heavyweight belt back that he just lost in June against Yuri Prochazka, one of the greatest fights ever. And Jamal Hill is the biggest fight of his life. He has the opportunity to become a champion a lot sooner than he probably expected, considering he's ranked number 7. And for this fight, I personally think Glover Teixeira is going to win. He's an underdog, which it seems like it's been like this with Glover Teixeira in his recent run to becoming the lightweight champion. It's that he's always the underdog. No one expects him to win. Everyone picks against him. His age, he's old and etc. But he hasn't shown his age has not caught up with him. It hasn't been a hindrance to him at all. He's still winning these fights, beating up these younger guys. Even the Yuri Prochazka fights, that was an epic back and forth war. It wasn't like Yuri Prochazka dominated him. I mean, Glover Teixeira was up 3-1 going into round 5, and even hurt Yuri in round 5. And for me, I'm picking Glover Teixeira to win this fight because I think Glover Teixeira is the better wrestler, better grappler of two. And I know Jamal Hill, when he fought Thiago Santos in the last fight, stuffed 14 of 20 takedowns, but the 6 he got, Thiago Santos was able to get those ones where it was able to get them very easily. And also, Thiago Santos is not exactly the grappler Glover Teixeira is, where if Glover Teixeira gets on top of you, like the way Thiago Santos did at times with Jamal Hill, you are screwed, because Glover Teixeira is known to have one of the best top games in all of MMA. He is, you watch the Jan Blachowicz fight, any of his fights, when he gets on top of you, he just dominates you and picks you apart and beats you up. The Anthony Smith fights and whatever fight comes as an example. And I think he's the better wrestler of the two. Also, I think he's got a better gas tank than the two. We saw him and Yuri Prochazka go at it for 5 hard rounds. It wasn't until the middle of the 5th round where Glover Teixeira gassed out and lost his energy. He was pushing the pace for most of that fight. And Jamal Hill, I just don't think Jamal Hill has the gas tank that Glover Teixeira has, nor the wrestling pedigree than Glover Teixeira has. And Jamal Hill is taking this fight on a month's notice, where Glover Teixeira was supposed to fight on that last pay-per-view card before Yuri got hurt. And Yuri got hurt like not that far away from the pay-per-view, like a week before the pay-per-view, if I remember correctly. At least over a week before the UFC 282 pay-per-view. And because of that, I think Glover was already in training camp, and now he took a couple weeks off and resumed training camp. I think Glover Teixeira is going to be in much better condition than Jamal Hill, and I can see him getting Jamal Hill tired, especially in the second and third rounds, and getting a submission or ground and pound there. I think he's going to win a second and third round ground and pound submission. Going to take down Jamal Hill and just beat him up there. Now it's possible Jamal Hill could win. Yeah, I could see maybe Jamal Hill catches him, and especially early in the fights, it goes for ground and pound. He might put him out. It's possible to Glover Teixeira maybe still feeling some of the effects from that war of Yuri Prochazka. It's possible, but also it's been about. I think the fact he's got an extra month to not to get to rest. Well, not rest, but he instead of fighting December, he fights in January. A month later, and basically about 7 months after the Yuri Prochazka fight, it might help him out in terms of recovery and taking some shots, and taking damage potentially as well. But I can also see where maybe Jamal Hill catches him and hurts him and drops him, finishing him potentially in the first round. But I just don't. It's possible. I'm not going to rule it out, but I just don't see it likely. I think Glover Teixeira is going to win second or third round, TKO or ground or submission, and then we go from there. From that fight to the other fight in the card is the quadrilogy. Yes, that's right, quadrilogy. Deiveson Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno 4. It is rare in combat sports to get a quadrilogy. It's not just in MMA, but boxing too. Those don't happen often. Seriously, how many quadrilogies can you think about? I mean, boxing, there's what, Pacquiao and Marquez? They fought, 4 times they fought. It was 4, because the fourth fight was that infamous Marquez knockout Pacquiao, where Pacquiao was face down near the ropes. What, Jake LaMotta and Sugar Ray Robinson, I believe, back in the day, back in like the 40s and 50s. Jake LaMotta, who was the inspiration for the Raging Bull movie that Robert De Niro started. They fought 5 times. In MMA, it's not the only quadrilogy I can think of is, and people probably don't even know this was a quadrilogy, was Andre Arlovski and Tim Sylvia. They fought 3 times in the UFC, but they fought a 4th time, won championship, and when one championship was just getting started back in 2012. People forget that. I didn't know until I was looking up Andre Arlovski's record. I was like, oh wow, he fought Tim Sylvia 4 times, huh? Never knew he fought 1, but this is rare territory. 4th fight between 2 fighters, and it's and this is something that may not happen for a long time. This quadrilogy, so this is something it's definitely a special moment, and I'm definitely excited to see this fight. That's for those of you who probably forgot how the series is. It was a draw in the first fight because Deiveson Figueiredo got a point taken away because of I believe a low blow, I think it was a low blow in the first fight, and it was a draw. Even though it weren't for that point deduction, he would have won the first fight. Moreno submits him in the second round. The second fight, excuse me. It might have been the second round of the second fight, actually, now I think about it. But I meant to say second fight. In the third fight, Deiveson Figueiredo wins the belt. It takes his title back a year ago in January of 2022. And now we get the 4th fight as Brandon Moreno come off that impressive victory over Kai Kara-France back in July for the interim belt. And this fight is, I'm leaning towards Deiveson Figueiredo. I know why some people may argue Brandon Moreno, because in that third fight, besides the 2 knockdowns that I think it was 2 or 3, besides the knockdowns that dropped Brandon Moreno in the first round and the third round, and even the submission attempt that Deiveson got on him in that third fight, a lot of that fight Brandon Moreno was winning, and that is a good point. So I heard someone mention that, and that's a very good point there. But for me, the reason why I think Deiveson Figueiredo should win, despite the fact that Moreno did so well in the third fight, most of the fight exceptional knockdowns and leg kicks that lost him the fight. The reason why I think Deiveson Figueiredo is going to win is because the James Krause situation. As we know, James Krause is being investigated by the Nevada commissions and by the FBI about the whole betting scandal, etc. And Brandon Moreno was a fighter under James Krause. He went to James Krause for the Kai Kara-France fight, and then it was staying with James Krause. And this was just a month ago that the whole James Krause situation happened. We got suspended, and where fighters couldn't be trained by James Krause by the UFC. And he was suspended by Nevada and these other commissions. An investigation came place, and I just think the fact that this is a month before your big title fight, and then you gotta go find a new gym, find new training partners, etc., and get comfortable again. Now, I granted he was only there for Krause for the Kai Kara-France fight, but still, he felt comfortable. He was praising James Krause and etc. Talking about the gym, etc. Praising it. Then to go from, but I understand. But sorry about that. I couldn't talk there today. That was weird, but I get I understand he was praising James Krause. Yeah, he was praising James Krause in the gym, like I said. But the fact that you have to change camps a month before your title fights, and not only that, you gotta go to Brazil, fly across 10-hour flight to fight enemy territory, and go out there, and then you try to get comfortable with a new gym, etc. Now it's possible he might have gone back to his old gym potentially. That's possible, but still, I just think the fact that the James Krause situation is happening, the fact that it was a month before his title fight, and the fact that he's got to get new training partners, different different coaching, different methods again. I just think it's going to hurt him in this fight. I just think it might be hard for him to overcome, despite the fact that Figueiredo is older than him and has a hard weight cut. And Moreno was doing very well in that third fight, besides getting knocked down twice in that submission attempt. I just think the fact that the whole James Krause situation changing camps is going to lead to his demise, and I think David Figueiredo will win this fight via unanimous decision, probably be 48-47. I can definitely see it being just like the third fight where it was a close, somewhat controversial decision. I can definitely see that happening. But yeah, I'm going Figueiredo. Although I wouldn't be shocked if Moreno does win, especially considering Figueiredo is older and those weight cuts are very brutal for him, especially as he gets older in the flyweight division too. It gets harder and harder to cut weight. And the older you are in the light divisions, the quicker your skills diminish. It's just how it is. But yeah, I'm still going Figueiredo. I think Figueiredo will win this fight. Let's transition from that fight to the next fight in the card, which is in the welterweight division between Gilbert Burns and Neil Magny. I'm going with Gilbert Burns. Although I could see Neil Magny somehow pulling off an upset victory for some odd reason. I don't know why, I just could see it. But I think Gilbert should win because I think Gilbert Burns, to me, I feel like he's just the better fighter. I think we saw against Hamza Chimaev that Gilbert Burns still has a lot left in the tank, and that he's still one of the top welterweights in the world, and that he can compete with the Colby Covingtons, the Chimaevs, obviously, the Usmans, Edwards, Bilal Muhammad's. He can compete with all those guys. And also for Neil Magny, it's a very quick turnaround too. He fought in early November, and now he's fighting in Brazil in January. And he did take some damage against Daniel Rodriguez. I remember D-Rod did hurt him. I think I dropped him or stunned him with a punch in their fight. And Gilbert Burns, Gilbert Burns he's working on his offensive wrestling, and Gilbert Burns is definitely a great jiu-jitsu guy. He's got a jiu-jitsu background, and I know Neil Magny's got a lot of submissions, but Neil Magny's not nowhere near doesn't have the jiu-jitsu pedigree as Gilbert Burns does. And to me, because of that, and also Gilbert Burns does have power in his hands, where he can drop guys and hurt guys. I mean, he dropped Hamza Chimaev in their fight. I think he dropped him twice in that second round, and he finished David Maia with a knockout punch. He had the ability to hurt Neil Magny. Either ground and pound him, drop him, after dropping him, or by dropping him, going for a submission. And I think he has more ways to beat Neil Magny than Neil does, because Neil Magny, he doesn't throw a lot of straight punches. It seems like if you could throw a lot of straight punches with pop behind them, you get Gilbert Burns problems, especially for reach advantage, like Usman did in their fight, and even Hamza Chimaev. Even if you don't have the biggest reach advantage or the same reach, if you can throw a lot of straight punches, Gilbert for some reason has a problem with that. And Neil Magny doesn't throw a lot of them. Personally, if you watch his fights, especially he has, especially since none of his punches have pop behind them. And I think personally, because of that, Gilbert is not going to worry about Neil Magny hurt him badly in this fight in the stand-up department. So I think it'll lead to him potentially landing a big punch that can hurt Magny and stun him, and where he can either finish him or maybe take him to the ground and go for a submission. So I think Gilbert will win via second or third round submission. And then the next fight in this card is in the women's flyweight division between Jessica Andrade and Laura Murphy. I got Jessica Andrade winning. I just think Andrade's just a better fighter than Laura Murphy. Laura Murphy, she's a good fighter, and she fought for the title. And you could say, well, she did better against Valentina than Andrade did, which is true. But I just think Andrade is better. Laura Murphy, there's not one thing where Laura Murphy excels at. It's no disrespect to her. Like I said, she's done well for her career. She's fought for the world title. She's been a top contender. You gotta tip your hat to Laura Murphy there. But there's not one thing she does that she does very well that I can think of. I mean, whereas Jessica Andrade, she's a strong woman and she's got dynamite in her hands. I mean, she can knock girls out. We've seen her do it before. I mean, she finished Kelly Chukagian with body shots, knocking out Kelly Nicole Kagitz back in 2018 with that I think right hook it was, or left hook. You know, we see how strong she is. She picked up Rose Namajunas when Rose was going for Kimura, and she just slammed her in Brazil, and that's how she won the title. And we've seen her finish Cynthia Calvillo in their fight. I think I want to say end of 2021. I think it was, I believe. And plus, we see how strong she is. She was able to finish Amanda Lemos with a standing arm triangle because how strong she is. It was so tight that Amanda had a tap. I mean, Andrade is just a freaking. She's a strong woman who's got dynamite in her hands and who just is super aggressive. Comes at you just like a pit bull. I mean, I just don't see how Laura Murphy can handle that. I feel like I just don't see how Laura Murphy's got the defense to avoid some of the shots of Jessica Andrade or the power to make Andrade to force Andrade to not charge in like she does. And it's not like she's a great grappler too, to where she can take Andrade down, give her problems there, just to tire her out. I just don't see that. I just don't see Laura Murphy be able to do that. I see Andrade just dominating her and just probably finishing her in the first round or the second round. And as for a great homecoming for her in Brazil. But yeah, I got Andrade's first or second round finish. I don't know which. It could be submission, it could be TKO. I'm gonna go TKO. Second round TKO. I'm gonna go Andrade or Murphy. And now the first fight in the main card, is a light heavyweight fight between Johnny Walker and Paul Craig. I'm going Johnny Walker in this fight. I think Johnny Walker is gonna get a victory. I think he's gonna knock out Paul Craig. One thing about Paul Craig is that he doesn't have a lot. He does not have good striking at all. His stand-up is not the best. And we saw against Oezdemir how bad striking can be against Oezdemir. If Paul Craig can't get you down and pull guard and get you to engage in his guard and get you there, it seems like he doesn't have a lot to resort to. And with Johnny Walker, what really has been hurting him is the fact that guys have been knocking him out. That's where a lot of his losses have been. It's been to guys, finding his chin and knocking him out. Here, Paul Craig, I don't think he has to worry about that because Paul Craig's not a great striker, doesn't have a lot of power in his punches, and sorry about that, I got distracted there, but it doesn't have a lot of power in his punches, not a great striker. Johnny Walker doesn't have to fear of getting hit by a big punch that can knock him out. And I think the fact that he fought Ian Cutelaba and didn't get rocked chin at all, was able to win that fight against someone, Ian Cutelaba, who does have some power in his punches. It's going to give him a lot more confidence to where he can fight more freely. And if you can fight more freely and more confident, your performance tends to be better. And I can see that totally happening with Johnny Walker in this fight. I think Walker will probably catch him in either late first round or early second round with an elbow or maybe a knee and do some damage and probably finish him with ground and pound and probably be able to put him away. I don't think it's going to be a situation where Paul Craig's going to pull a arm triangle like he did against Akio Krylov, where Krylov basically knocked him out, but the ref didn't notice it, and Krylov kept punching him, and he woke up and he was able to put a arm triangle against Krylov in the first London show. I think Walker will finish him late first round or early second round TKO. I think Johnny Walker's just a better striker, more power in his hands, doesn't have to worry about power from Paul Craig or good striking at all. Walker's good enough a grappler to where he doesn't have to worry about Paul Craig like pulling guard on him and giving him submission that way. I think Walker is a good enough grappler. But yeah, my predictions for the Brazil card, UFC 283, I got Glover Teixeira, second or third round TKO or submission. Daisy Figueiredo by decision, retaining his belt. I got Gilbert Burns winning via second round TKO or submission. Excuse me. Got Jessica Andrade, second round first or second round TKO, and then Johnny Walker first second round TKO. I think this has a lot of finishes in this main card. This could be. I think it's gonna be. I think by Sunday morning after the pay-per-view is over, we're gonna look back going, wow, this is a pretty damn entertaining main card. I think that's what we're gonna be talking about afterwards. Hopefully, I'm not wrong. I hope I don't look like an idiot saying this, but this is a good, solid main card for the most part. Although part of me is a little bit bothered because I feel like they should have made this card more stacked. Here's the thing: you haven't been in Brazil in 3 years. Let alone it's been over 3 years since you had fans in Brazil. And why is no Amanda Nunes on this card? Why isn't Andre Muniz on this card? Where's Edson Barboza? Where's Michel Pereira? I know Michel Pereira's got a fight with Sean Brady now, but Michel Pereira should have been on this card. They should have been trying to get him on this card prior to making the fight with Sean Brady in March. It's like they should have I feel like they should have just stacked this card since the return to Brazil. And Brazil is one of the most important markets for the UFC. It's one of the most important nations in the history of MMA. Can you really talk about MMA without Brazil? It's impossible to. I just feel like they should have stacked it a little bit more on this card. That's just me. Like, I don't know why Amanda Nunes couldn't fight on this card, return to Brazil. Why we couldn't get her and Shevchenko 3 fight on this card. But that's just my opinion. Alright, good main card. Some interesting fights in the prelims. Thiago Moises is fighting this card. He was supposed to fight. Who was his opponent supposed to fight? Kutalaze, I think. I forget. He was supposed to fight someone else, but got a late replacement. Thiago Moises is very underrated, very talented fighter. Me and Dan, if you watch the show, have saying Thiago Moises' praises. He's a very good fighter. Guy who we think could definitely get in the top 10 of lightweight division soon. And he's only 26 too, so he's still young. Or 27, still young. Gregory RoboCop Rodriguez is on this card. I love seeing RoboCop. I mean, that guy is an entertaining fighter. I mean, that guy had a nasty cut. Gregory Rodriguez, RoboCop. He came back and won. I mean, I'm excited to see RoboCop come back. Gregory Rodriguez. And unfortunately, he was supposed to fight Brad Tavares, but Brad got hurt and he got a late replacement. I'm excited to see Gregory RoboCop Rodriguez and Tom Moises on this card. Also, see Shogun in his final fight. This is it. This is a retirement fight for Shogun, who a legend, a guy who won the Pride middleweight tournament back in 2005. This is arguably the greatest tournament in MMA history, if you know your MMA history. And he was the light heavyweight champion in the UFC. And it's a guy who's had a lot of Hall of Fame career. Fought some great fights, had some great performances, and I'm glad he's retiring because his last fight, that was not the greatest performance, and that was a sign, yeah, Shogun, you need to retire, man. So I'm glad he's retiring here in this fight. And he gets to do it in front of his home country in Brazil, in front of his fans. I'm pretty sure his friends and family are going to be there. And he's an OG, so shout out to you, Shogun Rua. Thank you for your wonderful career, for all the entertaining fights you've given us. But yeah, there's some stuff to look forward to in this Brazil card, even with my complaints about not stacking it like I want them to do. Sarah Reigns, the return show in Brazil, but that's my coverage for the UFC 283 pay-per-view. I'm excited for it. It starts at 10 p.m. Eastern time, 7 p.m. Pacific. I know it's gonna be a lot of you probably gonna watch the NFL playoffs. I know the Giants are in the playoffs going against the Philadelphia Eagles, so good luck to the Giants there against their arch rivals against the Philadelphia Eagles in Philadelphia too, my ad. So it'd be great if the Giants won, but yeah, definitely once the Giant game's over, definitely want to check out this pay-per-view. This pay-per-view's got a chance to be a really good pay-per-view. Start the year off right for the UFC in the 30th anniversary year too. I'm excited for this. Like I said, the Figueiredo Moreno fight is the fight I'm looking forward to the most, just because it's a quadrilogy and we've never seen that before in MMA. Well, we don't see it often in MMA or combat sports. That's what I should say. So I can't wait to see that fight. Can't freaking wait. Can't wait to see Glover Teixeira and Jamal Hill. And Glover Teixeira can win. His career is like a movie. I said it in the live stream we did for the last UFC show 2022. If Glover Teixeira were to win this fight, his career is like a freaking movie when you really think about it. A guy who couldn't get in the UFC for a long time because of visa issues gets in the UFC. He's on a 25 win streak. Gets destroyed by John Jones in the title fight, then goes out and wins some fights, lose some fights, and then all of a sudden loses to Corey Anderson, then goes on this run late in his career as he's older to win all these fights that where he was underdog in. In some of these fights he faced adversity, came back and won, then becomes the second oldest fighter in UFC history to win the belt for his first time between Jan Blachowicz in 2021 Abu Dhabi. And great comebacks, feel good story. And then he loses the title to Yuri Prohaska, one of the all-time great fights. And then all of a sudden he's got an opportunity to win the belt back. Not only win the belt back, but do it in front of his friends and family in his home country of Brazil, in front of his home country mates. It's movie-like. Seriously, am I not wrong that Glover Teixeira's career is like a movie? It's unbelievable with Glover Teixeira. I mean, it really is. I mean, I can't wait to see if it's a Hollywood ending or not with this Saturday. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, listening to the show. Or you're watching us on YouTube or Rumble, or listening to us on audio podcasting platforms. We appreciate the love, support you guys give us. Chef Dan couldn't be here. He lost his voice, and he wants to rest up and recover. Hopefully he recovers soon and he gets his voice back, and he can come back next week and continue and break down this pay-per-view. Also, he can do Knicks games as the Knicks continue their season, and then hopefully he gets his voice back to the Giants watch along, because I'm pretty sure him and my dad are going to do a Giants watch along potentially this Saturday for the playoff game against the Eagles I mentioned. But yeah, thank you guys for the love, support you give us in this channel. Appreciate the love, support. Well, you guys, we're nothing without you guys, so you guys are the best. Our fans out there, we love you, appreciate ya. Have a good night, good day while you're watching this, and peace.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are